Hello, and thank you for joining today. My name is Anya Kaplan, and I'm head of operations and events for the Fashion Scholarship Fund. Before we dive in, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. As many of us at this point are very familiar with Zoom, there are some great features that we encourage you to use. One of them is the Q&A box. Feel free to send in your questions and we'll answer as many as possible during the Q&A segment of the discussion. And now I would like to introduce our Executive Director, Peter Arnold.
Thanks, Anya, and welcome everybody to the second of our Summer Scholar Series Workforce Preparedness Sessions. Really pleased that you've tuned in to, I know, what is going to be a really dynamic and engaging conversation with our esteemed panelists and with our very capable moderator, Ali Mize, who is a friend and colleague from Neiman Marcus. Ali's the Director, ESG Belonging and Corporate Philanthropy at the Neiman Marcus Group. Neiman Marcus Group has long been a partner of the FSFs. Lana Todorovic, who's the president of NMG, is a board member, and we've just had a particularly meaningful year, Ali, with you and your colleagues, and we're so pleased that this year, we will be awarding NMG scholarships to students pursuing courses of studies and careers in sustainable and ethical fashion. So I think today's panel is particularly apt for those scholar applicants and others. Happy now, Ali, to turn this over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Peter, for the welcome, and thank you, all of you, for joining us today. We're really excited about Neiman Marcus Group's partnership with the Fashion Scholarship Fund to prepare the next generation of industry talent pursuing sustainable and ethical fashion. And so we've curated a really beautiful panel for you today of people that bring a variety of perspectives to this topic. So I'm really pleased to welcome Amy Williams, who is the CEO of the Citizens of Humanity Group. She'll be bringing that brand perspective. I'm also joined by Tom Berry, who's the Global Director of Sustainable Business at Farfetch. He'll be bringing us the retailer perspective. I always love having discussions with Sarah Davis, who's the founder and CCO of Fashionphile, Neiman Marcus Group's resale partner. And then lastly, Jonelle Dawkins, who's a class of 2019 Fashion Scholarship Fund scholar, but she's also the executive director at Scraplanta Creative Reuse in Atlanta, bringing us that nonprofit perspective. So thank you to all of the panelists for joining us today. I'd love if we could kick off the discussion with just a little bit of context for our audience. So if you could each introduce yourselves and your current role and tell us, what does your job look like in the day-to-day? That would be really great. So maybe Sarah, if we could start with you.
Yeah, my name is Sarah Davis. Like Ellie said, founder of Fashionphile. So, it's really fascinating because my job today, I started 22 years ago, actually. I've been doing this for a really long time, started selling on eBay and kind of grew the business from a bootstrap company for 20 years until our first investor was Neiman Marcus. So such a thrill. So today my job looks much different than it did when I started. I used to be doing all the parts of the business, every part of the operations. And today I get to be part of most of the branding and brand building and kind of future direction and strategizing for Fashionphile.
Awesome. Welcome, Sarah. Thanks for joining us. Amy, what about you? Tell us about what it's like to be a CEO of a company like Citizens of Humanity Group.
Thank you. So I'm Amy Williams. I have been working in the retail industry since I was in high school. I started as a salesperson at Bloomingdale's, and I have a great affinity for the modern American department store. I paid for college, so I spent my last year at FIT paying for school and realizing that rather than going to law school for political science, retail was a career that I really wanted to be in. As CEO now, I've been with Citizens of Humanity for the last 12 and a half years. We build, design, and produce 3 brands under our portfolio: Citizens of Humanity, A Goldie, and Gold Sign. And I think my days are similar to Sarah's. While I started as an intern and had an early job at Macy's and The Gap, what I spend my time doing today is everything from working with the design team to thinking about sustainability initiatives to thinking about the global supply chain and manufacturing and how we can have the least, the smallest impact on the environment and the greatest impact on the people that we serve and employ.
Thank you, Amy. Tom, what's it like to be Global Director of Sustainable Business at Farfetch?
Yeah, thanks, Ali, and hi, everyone. So I've been at Farfetch for about 4 years now. I've been working in sustainable business for about 20 years, not in fashion, to be honest, mainly in consumer goods businesses. But yeah, the last 4 years have been a massive learning journey in the fashion e-commerce tech space. And yeah, my job's still pretty varied. I'm lucky enough to have a team now. So when I joined Farfetch, it was me who kind of did the sustainability role. So that was very much doing absolutely everything that that job entails within a company. But now it can range from presenting a new kind of piece of the strategy or an update to the exec team here, or even our board of directors, to writing some copy for the websites if there's something particular, something new we're launching, or something which we're changing in the business. So like every day is quite different. And yeah, as I said, I'm lucky enough now to have a team of people who run the different pillars of the strategy which we have.
Thank you for that intro, Tom. I would say those are both very relevant for anyone looking to enter the sustainability profession. When I joined, we were a team of 2 at Neiman Marcus Group as well. So definitely don't be afraid to join companies that are nascent in their journey and build out the team. I think that's a great insight. And Jonelle, welcome. Tell us a little bit about Scraplanta Creative Reuse and what that day-to-day looks like for you.
Yes. Well, as the executive director of a very small nonprofit, I pretty much have my hands in everything right now. As a Creative Reuse Center, what we do is we inspire people to make art from discarded materials as people clean out their classrooms, art studios, and things that they can't really donate to regular thrift stores. We take those items, we process them, and we sell them at really low prices to community groups and organizations. So my job usually consists of me connecting with other local nonprofits to help them find the resources that they need to host summer camps and community programs, and also just any groups in the community like local quilt and craft guilds to get their art supplies.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being with us, Jonelle. Jonelle, I know you studied sustainability during college. Tom and I have worked in this space for a while, but Sarah and Amy, this next question's for you. I'm curious, did you always focus on sustainability in your careers, or is it kind of a skill set that you've picked up along the way? Sarah, we can start with you.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's definitely a skill set I've picked up along the way. I always was interested in resale, mainly because when I grew up, I was the oldest of 6 children and we had no money. So I had to buy everything myself. And when you live like that, then you become very scrappy and learn how to find a deal. And that often comes in the form of thrift stores and consignment stores. So that's my entry. And there's probably found that people in fashion, actually in fashion schools, get a lot of inspiration from vintage and pre-owned. And so once you're in that world, it doesn't take long to really get an appreciation for really buying better products that stay around longer, and actually buying less products, but better made products you can keep for a long time. So it's interesting because in 2008, we had a little cute tagline that was like Fashionphile, saving the earth one fabulous bag at a time. And it was, my aunt was a doll designer. She did this for like Hasbro, Mattel, and all that. She did this cute like logo. It's like recycle symbol, this woman with this bag, and saving the earth one fabulous bag at a time. But we did a survey of our customers to find out why they were shopping with us and why they were selling with us. And we imagined that one of the real reasons that people were participating was because of sustainability. And we actually found out that back then nobody cared. It was actually not in the top 10 reasons why people were participating in selling with us or buying from us. And it's so exciting because that has totally changed. That's like now one of our top 3 dispositions why people are turning to resale. So and that's what I think is exciting, is that actually getting involved in resale gets people excited about seeing other ways that they can, kind of lighten their footstep. So I think that's kind of can lead people down that path as well.
Awesome. I love that sustainability is something that you can get into, whether you've studied it or whether you're picking it up along the way of your career. Amy, what does that look like for you?
I would say first, I love the way Neiman Marcus thinks about and defines sustainability. And so I just want to touch on that for a second. I think the idea of thinking about sustainability as sustainability, inclusivity, and charity and philanthropy is really, really important. And so what I would say is that inclusivity and charity has always been personally important to me. I think my own childhood had, challenges in it. And I understood the impact we all have on each other. And so while I was at The Gap and later at Lucky Brand and certainly here, a big part of my focus was bringing other people along and getting the best out of others. And the second part of it was always having a passion for giving back. So those two things I've had the great fortune to always do. And I've looked for people and company cultures that cultivate that. Sustainability in terms of the environment and the world is something I'm definitely a student of. And in the last couple of years, I've tried, along with our team, to learn as much as possible about it from a more scientific kind of perspective, and really digging deeper into what has the greatest impact and what will have the greatest impact over time, and not just what everyone's talking about at this moment. So that part of the journey is definitely newer and one that's really interesting, and has been over the last couple of years.
No, thank you for those insights. I think some really good takeaways for us there is that when we're talking about sustainability, it's not just the environment. There's also an aspect of human sustainability that we can dig into in this panel too, that I think is really important for people pursuing careers in this space. But I love that you touched upon evidence-based practices, science-based targets. Those types of things are really important for students to look at as they're preparing themselves too. So thank you for those insights. I think.
Can I just add there, Ali, because my perspective on it in terms of sustainability and business, because it's definitely changed over time, and it was great to hear this story, Sarah, in terms of consumer appetite for it changing. But I think business appetite for it is changing, and the key thing which I think is changing around it is people are seeing it less of, okay, well, should we go and do sustainability? Or should we do our business in a way which is going to be more sustainable or drive a positive social or environmental impact? And those are very different things. And I think, in the kind of old days of sustainability or corporate social responsibility, it was very much a thing which happened on the side of companies. And even as careers, you were siloed effectively, you were like a sustainability professional or you're an environmental manager within a company. Or someone who just did D&I and that was it. Whereas now I think there's so much more recognition that it's integrated within what consumers want, or how you operate your business, how you engage your staff, even what products and services you sell. And that's how, for me, if you're a kind of student and wanting to work on sustainability, you shouldn't be thinking, well, how can I get into sustainability topics? It's what would interest me in my career in business, and how could that be a thing which helps drive more sustainable outcomes? So a different perspective on it, but I think it's great that the world has changed in that way. And it opens up more opportunities, I think, for different career paths.
No, I love that ad, Tom, because I love that your title is even, Global Director of Sustainable Business. And I think that in companies that are operating effectively, sustainability issues, whether human or environmental, are synonymous with different business issues, right? So at Neiman Marcus Group, sustainability looks like operating our packaging, thinking about our supply chain management and the sustainability of the hangers that get used when a brand partner ships a product to our distribution center, and that distribution center ships it to the store, thinking about the costs associated with transitioning to renewable energy, or the revenue that we're starting to derive from products or services that don't rely on virgin materials. Those are all things that we're thinking through, and it's showing up in our budgeting processes and our enterprise risk management, our board of directors oversees this issue on a quarterly basis. And so I think that's a really important call out. And I would love to understand some really specific examples. And maybe we can start back with you, Tom, since you're bringing up this discussion. What are some of the ways that sustainability is showing up in core and strategic business processes and decisions at Farfetch today?
Yeah, look, it's a great question, and I guess in lots of different ways, you know, and deliberately so. Like the way we built the strategy at Farfetch was to pick on key areas where we felt like we could help either drive business growth or reduce business costs or reduce business risk, but whilst also maximizing environmental benefits or social benefits. So that, you know, we deliberately focused our strategy around pillars of those areas. And yeah, key ones are like some of what you mentioned there, Ali, in terms of the operational things that we can do. Farfetch ships globally, so we work a lot with our logistics and supply chain teams on cost reduction initiatives for making that supply chain more efficient, which happens to, and now deliberately also has the benefit of reducing the carbon footprint of that logistics. So that could be packaging reduction, it could be supply chain efficiency, getting product closer to our consumers so that it doesn't have to be air freighted so far, all of those kind of things. So it's kind of core in that area. It's core in our marketing area because one of our other key pillars is around engaging and encouraging our consumers to buy better products, so better from an environmental, social, or animal welfare perspective. And to do that, we need to have really good marketing, like demand side management around it. So marketing and product, the kind of product journey on it from a tech e-commerce perspective. But we also have to drive supply. So kind of working with our boutique and brand partners on getting more of that better product in. So it's kind of core in that. And then, yeah, we have a circular business focus kind of pillar. And yeah, we're also lucky enough to work with Fashionphile on that. They're our partner for our resale service in the US. And we have, yeah, that service is live globally in 30 countries. We also have a repair service and a kind of closet clear out donation service. And all of those things are, you know, they're business services for our customers, which appear live on our site and are driven in the same way that we try and drive new business and services for customers generally. But they are things which all benefit environmentally in terms of extending the life of items. So yeah, it appears in numerous ways in kind of core business and deliberately so.
I love that. Jonelle, Amy, Sarah, anything to add about how sustainability is showing up in your business operations? And maybe I'll even pull a question from the Q&A here that we've received from an anonymous attendee. It says, what business area is the highest priority for implementing sustainability initiatives for you right now?
I'm happy to go. So for us, we're working on many of the things that Tom's working on, but I think what's unique probably to this panel is we've gone completely upstream and we're now working with farmers directly to engage in regenerative practices in growing cotton. So we're moving away from organic cotton and we're moving towards regenerative cotton, which I would say my one tidbit for all the students is watch the film Kiss the Ground. It will change your perspective, I think, on how we can each have a positive impact on the environment and reverse some of the climate change issues that we face today. The practices of regenerative cotton, and there's been a lot of articles recently about it, really do help the earth repair itself and the soil, which is key. And so while we've always maintained a focus on creating the best quality product that's the most lasting and producing only what demand we see in the market, we're now, as I said, going further upstream using regenerative cotton. We continue to use recycled materials. We use recycled leather in our leather products, and really making sure that we understand the origin and also the people that are involved and the location that those materials are coming from, which is key.
So Amy, for you, it's a lot of product development and design is how it's showing up.
Yeah, a lot of product development design. I mean, there's a lot that we do. Denim is unique in that it's washed. So there's a lot that we're doing around water recycling and the changing of chemicals. We're working with early stage biotech developments in denim, indigo dye, leather, et cetera, really to try and do anything that we can to make sure that the materials are the best that they can be at the onset.
Jonelle, Sarah, anything to add to this question before we move on?
Yeah, I think, as you know, we're going through the B Corp process. And so we spent the last year going through, it's amazing, the assessment, even before, as we go into certification part of the process. And what that's been for us is so eye-opening, because what it does is it really just opens up and sheds light on all the blind spots that we didn't even know. Things that we could look at that is like, why aren't we doing that? There's so many things that when you're running a business that you actually don't have control over. But there are more things that you do have control over. And so at Fashionphile, like we actually, I started this business, we own this building. So we put solar on the building. Like we can do that. Like it was something that would end up penciling out for us financially, and it's the right thing to do. We can do that. There's other places when we don't own the building. We can't, move in that direction, but just having the entire team as part of that assessment, what that's done is kind of like was brought up earlier. I think Tom said, when the entire business is focused in this way and thinking about that, that means that everybody's making business decisions with, these principles in mind. And so there's certain things that we just weren't even thinking about. Number one, like, do we have to use paper at all for some of our, in some departments where we just have eliminated paper. When we're ever using it, recycled paper. What does our packaging look like? Like you said, what are those materials like? How much are we using and when? In our company, it's a lot of shipping and being thoughtful about that process. And so I find that what I think is exciting is even if you're not looking towards becoming a B Corp, the assessment, just going through the assessment as a company. And even when you're really small, I actually spoke to a woman who's got a very small operation. It's just a few of them. And they went through the assessment. They're actually B Corp now, but they went through the assessment just for that reason, because there's so many things that I didn't even know we didn't have. I didn't know we needed a whistleblower policy, let alone that we didn't have one. And that's so easy to do. And of course, these are things that I didn't know. So I feel like even I would just put, a recommendation out there of looking into that process, because it's just a guideline. If you're like, we want to be better in all these things and we don't really know what that means and how, it's been so helpful for us in giving us a guideline and saying, hey, here's how, here are things you need to do. These are the goals.
I love that, Sarah. First, congratulations to Fashionphile for going through B Corp certification, because it is very much a thorough process. And we definitely prioritize, to Amy's point about sustainability is social and environmental. We flag in our sustainability edits at Neiman Marcus and Bergdorf Goodman the brands that customers can shop who are certified B Corp, because it is such a guarantee that they are putting sustainability at the heart of their operations. I want to shout out to the audience. They continue to send in some amazing Q&A questions, so I'm going to try again to combine one of theirs with one of mine. Fatmata Kamara asked, what are some upcoming sustainability trends that students should keep an eye on as they look for jobs and internships? And so I really want to roll that into the next question that we had planned as a panel, which is, in addition to implement successful sustainability programs really takes a network of internal change makers across the business, right? So what are those teams outside of your own that you're working most with day to day, and why? Because I think when we think about what other teams we're collaborating with internally, it'll start to shed some light for students on what are roles outside of the sustainability team that they should be thinking about as they focus on, more technical areas of study and jobs and internships. So any of you, I can open it up. Maybe Amy, we can go with you. I mean, I imagine as CEO, you touch so many teams throughout the business, but when it comes to sustainability, what are some of those internal change makers and teams you're working with most these days?
Our approach is similar to, I think, what Tom said. We're everyone, and Sarah as well, everyone in the company, in each cross-functional team is really charged with thinking about sustainability now, and bringing both ideas and practices into their specific group and their cross-functional team. So I would say, I think with this topic and generally, the best thing a student can do and a person can do is be a really good listener, because the ideas are going to come from a lot of places, and this field is emerging and evolving every single day. And I think the more partners you have within the company and partnerships you can form outside the company, the greater the impact you can have. Example, many retailers specified the use of plastic hangers, and when we were going through like our supply chain and shipping and practices, it was like, this doesn't make a lot of sense. One of the first ones we reached out to, Neiman Marcus was like, oh yeah, we can change to paper hangers, right? It's the ease of conversation and getting someone on the phone and being able to say, like, I know we share common values. As Sarah said, let's question this practice and we can make quick changes that may have just gotten lost, right, in the document in the past. So I would say from my perspective, like every single area, I think there's a really big focus, again, on raw materials and really understanding raw materials sourcing and what has true impact. And so I would suggest as much learning on that topic as possible, because I think that will be important to anyone in apparel and fashion in the future.
That's a great call out. The sustainability team is definitely one that I know we continue to, the supply chain team, is one that we continue to work with more and more these days. Jonelle, I'd love to hear from you as a newer leader in this space. What are some of the skills that you see yourself utilizing the most in your day-to-day as the field unfolds?
I really just feel like everything that I have learned throughout my experiences, education, like extracurricular, all that, it comes together. And especially like with the social aspect of sustainability, existing in this society, like as a millennial or Gen Z, like in that weird space, but seeing like how it affects people on demographic levels, I can bring that to the table when I discuss like partnerships and creating our budgets and like how do we make a truly like sustainable company, and not just like the ecological aspect, but also the social and people aspect.
I think that's a great call out. And one word you said in there that really sparked an idea for me is budgeting, right? I think that finance classes are a really important one for people pursuing careers in sustainable and ethical fashion. I see, Tom, you're smiling. I mean, I know our finance team is really important for us in making sure that ESG priorities are showing up in capital budgeting and operational budgets and the way we're planning for headcount. And it's really important to be able to understand profit and loss and all of that. So Tom, I don't know if you have anything to add about internal teams that you're working with most frequently these days, but I know finance and audit is top of mind for me as well.
Yeah, I mean, I work with almost every team in the business, and if I'm not working with them, or one of the team isn't working with them, then we probably should be. Like it's like a number of the panelists have said, it's like critical that everyone in the business has some sense of responsibility for trying to meet the goals, whatever those goals are that you set as a company, because they're often goals which you can't meet, or there should be goals which you can't meet without the core business actually taking action on them. So everyone needs to be engaged, involved. I guess in terms of skills, like the finance skill is a key one, partly just to understand that, it's a big part of what makes business tick and always will be in this system that we operate in. So understanding it is fundamental if you want to try and change anything. And it's an increasingly important kind of player or actor in the sustainability space, like in and of itself, just because there's been a rise in kind of green capital, so like investment which is linked to sustainability performance. So the kind of access to capital for companies is increasingly being linked to sustainability performance. And Ali, as you said, like the understanding and being able to influence a budgeting process is critical, because again, any sustainability, not even like, if it's not about being in a sustainability role, it's like any change. Sustainability is inevitably about change, because it's about changing the status quo. Like, there are problems and issues with the way things are operating at the moment. So then the whole idea of sustainability is you're trying to change that. If you're going to try and change something, you need to make a business case for it. Whether that's about investing something more or cutting something or changing some kind of investment. So having an understanding of how business cases work in relation to your own specific business's P&L, or the way that the budgeting process works within an organization, is, yeah, pretty fundamental to making change happen. So
I love it. Thank you for that ad. I think budgeting and business cases is definitely important. I also think associate engagement and internal communications is a critical skill set. So when we think about corporate communications, HR, what we call people services here at Neiman Marcus Group, play a critical role in our internal change management. Sarah, any thoughts from you about which internal teams you're working with most these days at Fashionphile?
Yeah, like it's been said by everyone before, it really is like all hands on deck with this. Everybody's engaged. And one thing we found that I think is such a thrill, honestly, is that for us, you talk about the millennial Gen Z, internal customer of our employees as they come to team here. People come to resale because they love this stuff. Like, it's in their blood. They are coming to us hungry for improvement. They come to us because of where we are now, and also to help us be better. And so, at Fashionphile, our kind of all of these practices and our whole B Corp effort sits under our Chief People Officer, because, as we said, so much of this is really looking at the entire environment for our team as well. I find it fascinating. We got a new intern who just started with us this week, who's helping us with some of the reporting around our sustainability efforts in line with our B Corp process. He comes to us from Berkeley, and his major is environmental economics. It's an economics major, because you can't really improve unless you can really get good metrics and see where you are, and so it's really exciting to see in every department, as everybody's engaged and excited. It really is a full team effort. I mean, obviously there's a heavy load in our operations. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of work, and really just, you can see that clearly. But I think when you get our finance team excited about the fact that this is win-win, because a lot of times when you're making these improvements, it's not more expensive, potentially is better for the business. And that's what I love about a lot of these practices. It used to be a time, and we've talked about this before, Allie, that like, if you want to buy a sustainable handbag, it's made out of pre-owned Capri Sun containers, or like used seatbelts. And that was your like recycled handbag. And today a sustainable handbag is, a 3-year-old Gucci backpack that somebody else carried and then was sold on eBay, and somebody bought it and then sold it to us, and then we're selling it to you. That idea of extending the life of those products. And to me, you're ending up with something that's better. Like, I'm not carrying the Capri Sun bag, but like, sign me up for any, and I love resale, as and I think it's a better result. And so I think as we all get on board, the thing that's exciting is it's actually better for business, and so then you get finance excited about it, and then they're fuel in the fire. And then you get ops. By the way, a lot of this stuff means it's less products to buy and keep up with, and inventory, as far as like some of our packaging and things like that. And then they're excited because they can, and so as you really get the whole team, it's like win-win. It's win. It's win for the for the planet, but it's also really a win for Fashionphile. And I love the enthusiasm for our team that's really pushing it forward. And I think you see that in the world in general, like brands and multi-brand retailers. I mean, Neiman Marcus was very pioneering in investing in Fashionphile before it was cool. 2018, we started, the discussions about the investment, and that was long before any of the brands were piling into resale. But really, it's the reason why a lot of the brands are warming up to it is because the consumer is hungry for it. The world sees the benefit, and it's kind of pushing not only brands and retailers, but governments into making the right decisions. And as we all work together, that's when you see real results. So it's exciting.
I love it. Thank you all for your perspectives on that question. I think my takeaway from that is it's really important for the students to be focusing on the core business skills like finance, audit, legal, accounting, in addition to some of that technical sustainability expertise. If you're pursuing a career in this space, it's all about collaboration and knowing how to speak the language of all the different pyramids of the business. And really that there's opportunity now, not just to sit on a sustainability team, but hopefully what you heard from everyone's answers is there's opportunities to sit inside of other business departments and really still have a huge impact. I know at Neiman Marcus Group alone over the past year, we've added roles like ESG marketing manager at Neiman Marcus, whose sole job is to bring sustainability, belonging, and philanthropy to life for the Neiman Marcus customer through our marketing channels. We've added a new facilities and ESG senior manager whose sole focus is helping us meet our climate change goals through the upgrades that we make to our facilities and how we procure renewable energy. We've added a new responsible sourcing manager role, to Amy's point about sourcing. So I love all of those tangible examples that hopefully answered your all's questions. The next one I have is really, in addition to internal collaboration, it's also important for us to be working with external entities like governments, nonprofits, other companies in the industry, if we're really going to move the needle on some of these more systemic issues like climate change, circularity, sustainable products. I mean, those are things that are really too large of an issue to handle or address alone. And so what are some of the ways that your organizations are engaging in broader efforts to move the fashion industry forward? Would love if we could share with the students what some of those, forums are that your companies are engaging in that they should be following as well. Tom, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple which we are pretty closely involved in and have been involved with in the past. So there's a organization called the Fashion Pact, which is a set of pretty broad set of companies, brands and retailers in the fashion industry, which orientated around mainly environmental targets, so less of the social side, but again, a lot of collaborative work within that. Then there's the UNFCCC, which is the UN Fashion Charter for Climate Change, which again, a very climate change focused, but again, a really broad set of the fashion industry, all working towards trying to keep within science-based goals for climate and what the fashion industry needs to do that. We have been part of Ellen MacArthur Foundation for a few years. So they work on circularity generally in business, circular business models, and specifically set something up around fashion a few years ago. Yeah, so there's a host of, like, sustainability is littered in some ways with almost too many multi-stakeholder initiatives. But yeah, absolutely critical, as Ali said, like some of the issues and challenges which are global and or cross-sectoral or cross-industry require that kind of forum, just to either set minimum standards or to have a shared vision or a goal around. So yeah, they're kind of critical to getting broader progress happening.
Thank you. We just joined Ellen MacArthur Foundation at Neiman Marcus Group, and we're super excited for some of the upskilling that it's going to allow us to unlock internally for associates to get them more familiar with the circular economy and to champion some of the awesome work we're doing with Fashionphile. Sarah, I know you all are starting to engage in more external forums too. I think you all just joined a new circular policy group as well, right?
Yes, and like I said, we actually look to Europe as the example. There's really been, like I said, it's going to be it's going to be all of us working together to really get movement going forward. And so we're trying to get engaged right now, partnering with what we label as our friends in resale, not our competitors, because this is a huge space and there's room for so many of us, and so many different of our resale partners, our friends in resale, are trying to crack the nut in different ways and are, quite frankly, doing jobs we don't want to do, dealing with product that we're not interested in selling. And so, getting involved from a policy perspective, we're also involved in, working now with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and we're, talking about, a lot of things we can do in terms of that type of movement. But for Fashionphile, our main emphasis really is like talking to the brands. Like and really it's from us, it's very grassroots. It's literally like, you know, linking in with people and trying to have those initial conversations. And so for us, it's not even our brand strategy team. As you know, you've worked with Sarah Sheffy before, you know, just knocking doors and talking to all the brands and saying, how can we help you? And what's exciting is that, you know, 10 years ago, no luxury brand was considering resale at all. In fact, it was very adversarial, actually, and I get it, like, especially the luxury brands are concerned with a delicate balance of supply and demand and all of that. And so, you know, really wanting to be careful about the way their brand is represented. And so we've tried to create a resale brand that a luxury brand can say, okay, this feels like the kind of a brand we would associate with if we were, you know, going to step into that world. And we've tried to talk to brands, and what we found is that they're all open now. Most of the brands that we actually sell, these luxury brands, while they're not participating in resale, they are all saying, we know we have to do something. And how does this fit with us? And if we do it, when and how, what does it look like? And so to me, it's like such a thrill, because the world has changed in that regard as well, that ththese conversations are open and they're frequent, and there's a genuine interest, and really it's driven by the consumer who's demanding it. The young millennial consumer, really. But yeah.
No, I love that this career space is definitely one that allows a lot of collaboration between companies as well. I love that we can call up Farfetch and ask what they're doing in this space, or Nordstrom, or anyone else. And people are always willing to share best practices, what challenges they're facing, how they're addressing them. Amy and Jonelle, anything to add on this question about important forums that you're following, or how you're engaging with other external entities on the sustainability journey that you're taking?
Jonelle, do you want to go first?
Oh yes, I can go first. So as like a small nonprofit in a very artsy and huge city as Atlanta, we're able to connect with partners across on the university level, like connecting art supplies to art students who might not be able to afford like things that they need to make their portfolio for jobs. And then we also have the film industry, where, you know, people are making the like props and everything for their sets, and they need to get rid of their stuff at the end of their filming sessions. And so with Scraplanta, we get that cool aspect where we can get the materials from one company to maybe like a film to a high school musical production, or we can also do just the community aspect where we partner with other art nonprofits and help fundraise together. So we're all like growing and connecting with the Atlanta community and letting them know what we do.
Awesome example. Facilitating between different companies and organizations in the same city is something that often gets overlooked and is a really critical role to making the circular economy work. Amy, any thoughts from you before we go to the next question?
Yeah, I'll just quickly add, our approach is more similar to Sarah's in that we have a UC Berkeley student. We have a close affiliation with the university, and we've had interns over the years, but we have a student who researches a lot of up and coming developments, and then we make direct contact. So we're very focused on the supplier side, everything from the cotton, which we've talked about, excuse me, and our mills, as well as like chemicals and manufacturing tools that would allow us to be more sustainable. So that would be one thing I would add. And then I would agree with the comment that I think this has been an opportunity for all of us to think of each other as less of a competitive set and more about being a collective community of change makers. And so a lot of the recent conversations we're having include luxury brand partners who want to work together on shared initiatives, and the power of that community going further upstream is what will allow, you know, change to happen. And the last piece of it, I would say, is we continue to stay connected with a group of really important charities that are focused on helping people in the world from all different walks of life. And so one of the things we do with all of our seconds is we donate it to UNHCR, and we make sure rather than it ending up in a landfill that it's going to people who have been displaced, you know, through and in humanitarian situations. So there's an aspect of, I think, philanthropy and charity that's also circular and sustainable, which is how we've chosen to support different people in the world. And we continue to keep our ears open, and we're very quick to react to situations in the world when we see people who are in need of help, whether it's in the US or abroad.
Thank you for all of these really helpful examples. I think for everyone in the audience, we have a few more that I would add from Neiman Marcus Group, since we always try to pair all of our public commitments with credible third-party nonprofits who can help vouch for our performance in this space, so that we're not just talking about our own performance, we're really allowing experts to inform our efforts and speak for us. And so I think for renewable energy, we're a part of a network called RE100, which is a group of large companies working to procure 100% renewable energy in different markets, oftentimes by 2030, sometimes by 2040. But by banding together and working with policymakers, we're able to better scale the affordability and accessibility of renewable energy in different markets around the world. When it comes to adopting more sustainable materials and product development, we're also a member of the Textile Exchange nonprofit, whose membership network really comes together and explores the development and uptake of new and innovative materials in fashion. And then the last one that I would say, in addition to Ellen MacArthur, is we really love our trade association. So when you think, if you have any kind of interest in policy making, we love working through the Retail Industry Leaders Association, the National Retail Federation. Those are great places to intern or to work and to really make a difference in moving the entire industry forward. So great conversation. I'd love to get specific about how some of our companies work together. You know, if someone was interested in building a relationship with Neiman Marcus Group through our scholarship program, through different entry-level jobs, would love for them to know about how our organization works with some of yours. So Tom, can you talk a little bit more about Farfetch's recent investment in Neiman Marcus and some of the just entry-level conversations we've been having about sustainability?
Yeah, sure. So we we made an investment, formed a partnership with Neiman Marcus not very long ago. I can't remember the exact date, but we're a big, as well as being a retailer, online retailer ourselves, we've got a big tech capability in a group within Farfetch called Farfetch Platform Solutions, which runs e-commerce for a number of other brands and retailers globally. And core part of the partnership is for us to what we call re-platform the Bergdorf Goodman website and mobile app to enable them to sit on the kind of Farfetch platform and benefit from all of the tech developments which we've done over the last 14 years for Farfetch. And more broadly, the Neiman Marcus Group will plug in various kind of Farfetch Platform Solutions modules to enable kind of global e-commerce through the group. So it's a really exciting partnership for kind of future of like retail commerce, basically, and the combination of online and offline retail, which is, I know, been part of both the Farfetch and Neiman Marcus Group's vision. So yeah, broad, big, exciting partnership generally, which is just really kicking off. And then Ali and I and a number of other team members connected recently, and there's lots which we can work on jointly on sustainability, everything from sharing best practice in terms of some kind of basic operational areas to potentially working together on some kind of bigger industry change initiatives. So yeah, early days, but really exciting in that kind of context of trying to change the world of kind of luxury commerce in terms of combining the two strengths that we bring to the partnership. There's loads which we can do within sustainability in that.
I love it. I think it's a really interesting example of retailers working together, of the importance of omni-channel retail and technology that Neiman Marcus Group is pursuing with partners like Farfetch. So it's awesome. Sarah, we were talking about a newer partnership, but we've been partners now for about 3 years. Can you say a little bit more about the partnership between Neiman Marcus Group and Fashionphile?
Yes, I can. And it is kind of like an interesting thing here because we're also the partner that does the Second Life program for Farfetch. So when you think about it's the full circle here, but if you think about for an online provider like Farfetch, if you want to sell your used Gucci backpack, you upload the photos to the website, and then we will pay you in Farfetch store credit and you can purchase your item that way. But I always tell people, people throw away the word revolutionary, but what's happening in Neiman Marcus stores really is revolutionary when you think about circularity. The fact that you can walk into a retail environment and you've got, this pair of shoes that you bought that, they're Christian Louboutin shoes and they were too narrow when you got them and you never really wore them. And you can bring them into the store and you can drop them off at the counter and you can go shop for a new pair of shoes or go have lunch in the cafe with your girlfriends and then get an alert on your phone that you've got, you're getting paid in 30 minutes for that item in the same shopping trip that you're buying the replacement item. It really is revolutionary when you think about that circular experience. And what I love too is just that just the thought, especially in a luxury environment, but any brand who cares about these issues is going to say, we're producing these products. And what happens to them after they leave our door? What is the full life of that product? And so, you've produced something that is now, out there in the universe. And what is the full life? And I love, the perspective of Neiman Marcus, which is not just like, what does that new life look like, but actually extending the life. I love the full story, which is mending and repairs along the way, which is not only just the sharing economy, but extending the life as you maintain those products through that mending repair process, and then participate in this resale. It really does extend that life so long. We did a survey with Kantar and we're interested in what happens to the luxury handbags. Like, when does a Chanel flap end up in a landfill? And the answer was just never, almost. And so what's exciting is that when you buy a quality product, whether it's from Neiman Marcus or in resale, when you buy that quality product, we found from this survey, you're going to take better care of it. You're going to pay for professional repairs along the way if you need it. And you're going to find a home for it when you're done using it. And that item is going to be bought and sold and shared, literally through decades. We see this internally, but so we see what's happening in Neiman Marcus. We're excited to extend that even further. But the second part of that is using your stylists. The Neiman Marcus stylists, we're so good at deciding what goes into someone's closet. They know the styles and colors that look good on their customer, on their client, but they also know, hey, you have not been using that Gucci backpack. What were you thinking? Those shoes are too narrow. Sell them to Fashionphile and let's get something in there that will actually work, And so they're actually helping us with the white glove service of bringing those products in. So when you can see how cool that is, when you think about a luxury experience from a Neiman Marcus customer perspective, they've got really quality, amazing things they've bought that are sitting around, and a lot of them they love and use to death. And some of them they're just not loving. It just didn't work as like they thought. And that elevated service of helping, get that back into, into circulation with someone else. I just think it really is a revolutionary. There's no one else who's doing it. No one else, who's creating that type of experience in luxury. So it's exciting.
I love it. Thanks, Sarah. Amy, I would love to end this question with you real quick. How is sustainability showing up in your team's conversations with Neiman Marcus and Bergdorf Goodman buyers?
In a couple of different ways. I think, one of the things that we appreciate about both Neiman Marcus and Bergdorf's is the companies have always stood for quality and an appreciation and a filtering of brands and what they choose to purchase and offer the end consumer that is lasting and of great quality. And I would also say of timeless style, right? I think one of the reasons Sarah can do what she does is because these things will be part of people's wardrobes forever. And so as we think about designing new products and incorporating those products out into the world, that's an element, right? That's the beautiful balance of like what is current and relevant, but also lasting. So that's one way. I think the teams are incredibly disciplined about the amount of product they purchase and making sure that they're offering something interesting to the consumer with a lot of data behind them, so they make the best possible choices, and the fewest amount of products are excessive or marked down. And then of course, there's a lot of conversations about how the products are made and what practices, again, both from a people standpoint, like where are we making these products? In our case, we own our own factories. We manufacture in Los Angeles and Turkey. The teams were completely open about, what we pay and living wages and scholarship programs, and all of those things, including, again, where's the fabric from, and what are the chemicals used or not used in our case, to make all of these products. So there's a degree of knowledge that all of the buyers, I think, have had to gain over the last couple of years so that they can ask smart questions, and not just scratch the surface of like, we have a sustainability mission and we don't really know what that means. So those are the ways that we see it showing up, which is really exciting for us, and just holds us to a higher standard each day, frankly.
You all have provided us with such great insights. I'm going to ask Jonelle one final question, and then Peter, maybe I'll turn it over to you to close us out with a final question. But thank you to everyone who submitted so many questions in the chat. I actually think we have enough content here for a whole other panel on this topic. But Jonelle, I think you're particularly an inspiration to a lot of people in the audience. You're a 2019 FSF scholar. You've managed to find a really cool and meaningful way to take your background in fashion, business, sustainability, mix that with your passion for art, and translate that into a really new, cool, meaningful leadership opportunity in the nonprofit space. So can you talk to us a little bit about how your work with Scraplanta kind of brings together all of those elements of your background?
Yes, it has been a wonderful experience. And I think the reason why I'm here is because I just kept exploring opportunities. I kept volunteering at different places and figure out more of what I wanted. And then on the other hand, I also kept communicating to people what I wanted. I didn't just exist in my dreams by myself. I told other people, and they connected me with the people to where I am today. So to all the scholars, just keep telling people your dreams and keep believing in yourself and exploring what they are, because they do change, and embrace that change in that journey.
I love it. Thank you so much. Peter, we have so many other questions that we could cover in terms of what emerging issues are on people's minds, what resources our panelists use to stay up to date on sustainability trends. I know we have a lot of questions from the audience as well, but if you wouldn't mind closing us out with one final one, and I think we'll say goodbye.
Thanks, Ellie. Yeah, and thanks for integrating some of the questions that were popping up in your questions. We do have a lot of other questions, and unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to them. But Jonelle, I think those sort of parting words about dreaming, but also telling people what your dreams are, is very meaningful advice. Because maybe one question, just to bring it down to the personal, that came up was, do you have advice on how someone can get started on a more sustainable path themselves? Are there simple things you can do in your everyday life to change habits? Just putting that to any of you as our sort of final question.
I was going to say, I think it's important just to do something. I think a lot of times people think, I want to do this, and they get some big plan. And by the way, it's not sustainable. Their plan isn't sustainable. Not only that, but if you just think of one small thing you can do, because what I found is that when you set that goal and you accomplish that one little thing, you set a goal for yourself to do one little thing, and then you do it, it increases your confidence. You feel better. You feel like you're acting, you have more integrity around that item. And so then you'll be able to grow onto that. So pick a small way that you can, something that you can do personally that you do have control over, and don't set too big of an audacious goal that's multifaceted that you're not going to be able to knock off, because that just That's depressing.
I'm going to just build on what Sarah said. I think take care of yourself. And I don't mean that in a selfish way, but really like understand, as Jonelle said, like, what do you want? What fulfills you? What motivates you? How do you feel your best self at the start of every day? And do that first, because then it's easy to apply that energy to everything else that you do. And it's contagious.
I would just say, like maybe not in your everyday life, but if you're thinking about careers, just do what you love and what you think you'll be great at. You know, that could be fun. It doesn't have to be sustainability. It could be finance, design, content, merchandising, operations, project management, anything. And then either go and work for a business which you know is doing good. Go and work for Sarah at Fashionphile. They have a sustainable business model. They're already doing it. So just go and be the best finance person you can possibly be in a business like that, or go and work for another company and find ways in which you can change it for the better. So yes, go and work in finance in another big company, but try and do things in relation to your role which are going to have a positive impact. So they kind of, I mean, simplifies the choice, but yeah, you start with doing what you love. Don't think I need to be in a sustainability job or in doing something related to sustainability. Do what you're really good at and find ways which you can have a positive impact in doing that.
I try to always avoid petroleum-based materials like polyester in my closet. And I really focus on listening and learning from the voices who are leading the charge in this space. People like Aja Barber, the author of Consumed, or Elizabeth Klein, the author of The Conscious Closet. I take the time to read their works and really apply it to my personal closet management.
Thanks, Allie. Thanks all of you. That was as compelling as I knew it would be. And Allie, you are the deftest moderator I've encountered. So thank you for handling this so well. I know our scholars got a lot out of it. Several questions about making sure we have a recording, which we do, which we will socialize so people get to see it who couldn't attend, but we've gotten questions from folks who want to see it again. So thank you all very, very much for your time and for your insights and for your advice. Tom, Amy, Sarah, Jonelle, and Allie, especially. Thanks again so much for today. Much appreciated.
Thank you. I learned a
Thanks,
lot.
guys.
Yeah.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you all. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.